Wilmer Valderrama is an actor, producer, TV personality, best known for his role as Fez on That 70s Show. From moving to the U.S., not knowing a single word of English, to now becoming a successful businessman, we dive deep into this interview with Wilmer. This is Just Be with Wilmer Valderrama. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm always good. How are you?
Good. Are you in LA?
I am in LA. I thankfully I wrapped the show for the season, so I have a little downtime. And then we have like a alluring writer strike coming up, so that might be a longer extended vacation for a while. But
I remember the last one, and I remember my opinion being that reality television show and its explosion being like a result of that, a reaction to that.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was alternative programming of all different sorts, and then animation started coming.
Oh, yes. I'm like entertaining, irreverent animation. And you do voices for animation. You did Encanto, right? Which I don't know. Do most people know that? Or do you get like a more sort of incognito life when you do those projects? Obviously.
That's a great question. It's a great question. I don't know. I think I tend to get in front of them as if they were like a primetime show or like a blockbuster release. Mm-hmm. And I try to promote as hard as I possibly can. So I think most people know that animation is something I love very much. And I just find I find it very refreshing. It's a really fun medium to tell stories. And since I was a little boy, I've always thought, it'd be so cool to be an animated character, you know?
Really?
So yeah. So my first thing was I partnered up with Walt Disney to do this little preschooler show on Saturday mornings called Handy Manny.
Okay.
And I played Manny, and it was a little handyman with a team of talking tools, and we just went around G-Rock Hills just like fixing anything that was broken. And along the way, you appreciate culture. It was bilingual. It was like the first of its kind, and did incredibly well. So, and I just got hooked. I got hooked at that, coming to a sound booth and like playing with the lines over and over again, and like being able to just do it right there. Like, let me do it one more time. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna do it like that. Which was just a very different form.
Oh, interesting. So it's more free than regular acting?
Yeah, because regular acting, you're crafting a visual interpretation of something that was put on a script as a narrative blueprint for an audience to enjoy a certain genre, a certain adventure, a certain, journey. And even on television, you have a certain time restraint on like how you're going to tell this, and every actor has a different contribution, very much like voiceover. But when you're performing live action, I mean, there's just like a million more elements to the art form that has to be engaged as a perfect storm. When you're doing animation, you can be as imperfect as you want to be. Like you can blub the line 11 times. You can't in acting, right? In acting, you got to get it in 2 takes, right? But
is that because of all the expense, like all the different expense that the time is more critical and versus just like being in a booth? It's like more.
Yeah, bulky? I think so. I think it's a little bit more, it's a little bit more liberating in the sense that when you're doing a feature, or you're doing television, you have that location for a certain amount of time. They have computed that somehow this scene would take about 2 hours. Then they move to the next one, so you can get everything in within the 10-hour or 12-hour block. And so that becomes that. But for like example, when I did, when I did Encanto, as an example, I would do the same line probably 25 times with all kinds of different colors and momentums and volumes and all that too, because sometimes you're not in the same booth. Most of the times you're not in the same booth with the rest of the actors. So you're kind of playing with yourself. And
interesting. I never have even thought about it. And I was wondering, is it much more, so you get a normal movie or a normal TV show versus an animated TV show. What's the time commitment for you? What's the difference in the time commitment?
It's magical when you do a voiceover, because when you do a voiceover, you commit to a 3-hour session, a 4-hour session. Sometimes you can do a 6-hour if you're like really busy. Like sometimes I have to get in a lot in the hours that I got in. And then you can do multiple episodes in one recording.
Oh, you can bang it out. Okay.
Yeah. But in television, it takes 8 days to shoot one episode, and it takes a full day to maybe shoot 3 scenes.
Okay, so if you did a movie and you got paid $5 for a movie as you're in it, it's you and you're an actor versus animation, you're the star of both. How much if you got $5 on a regular movie, what would you get on an animated movie? Like how much difference is it in pay?
Probably about $2. I mean,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
Okay, at any level, even if you're Tom Cruise or Ellen,
Yeah,
like
for
it's
the
the same.
most
Yeah.
part.
Okay.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah, and animation too. Like, I mean, it's like really. I mean, you even go down to like the Toy Story of it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the second and third movie, maybe everybody gets a bump, and then maybe there is some box office performance. But when it
Yes.
comes to the budget that goes into making it, animation is like every dollar counts, right?
Okay. Interesting. I've never heard that or known that. So, so obviously I know who you are, and I talk, for some reason I've talked to a lot of people who have like one thing that stands out as the biggest thing in their career that they're kind of always carrying, whether they like it, they don't, they go back to it, like whether it's Tori Spelling or, I just talked to David Arquette, who like Scream is his ID indelibly, and Tori Spelling, who's now leaning back into it, or me with the Housewives, having a podcast called Rewives. So what do you think of that? I know without even asking you that certainly hasn't been your most lucrative opportunity, but it's the thing you're the most famous for, right? Because you probably were making no money when you started and everyone thought you guys were millionaires and you were just famous, but not rich, because I know what TV paid back then and you were kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess we can reference back to, I would say the 70 show was obviously the big one for many reasons, because it was like the perfect blend of innovation, genre, bending, and like we were breaking the mold of sitcom. So it was going to work or it was going to be a catastrophe. And also we were such an interesting experiment because back then, at prime time, you were against Friends, Seinfeld, Spin City,
wow.
Me, eventually Will and Grace. So we were like this, this young up and coming cast that was somehow the found a voice within the 18 to 49 demographic. We weren't getting the household numbers like Friends, but we were absolutely dominating the 18 to 49, as you know, and most people would, the 18 to 49 is the holy grail for networks, right? Because that's the advertising, that's the that's corporates are going after that audience. So if you have the attention of that demo and you're 1, 2, or 3 in the scale of like the people that actually invite as many of those people in that demo, then you have an opportunity to grow, and that show becomes very profitable, and therefore you could have an opportunity to renegotiate and get a little bit more for your money. And I think
so. For the viewers, for the listeners, people often in the press talk about the household overall number because it sounds big. On the Housewives, it used to be 3 million. Nobody cares about the household numbers really at the network. They're like, but in the demo, and they even take it even tighter, like it's 18 to 49 and then 25 to 45, and are you getting women? So there could be some edgy audience where you've got it, but they're not really purchasers. So they want the purchasers of the household. And he's talking about, and even going deeper, Wilmer was on a show that had the younger audience, so they're going to keep them in the store to watch the other stuff that they're selling them. So you want the young audience because you're going to keep that audience for their whole lives and also sell them other shit on the network. Sorry.
That's right. No, that's right. I mean, thank you for clarifying that for the listeners. I mean, and furthermore, to just kind of complement what you've started with that, then it becomes, a network's mandate to fulfill certain demos so they can offer a different portfolio to all their advertisers who, by the way, it's not only funding the network and funding the company, but also funding the content. So in many ways, it's like this interesting ecosystem that has to work together. Now, it all got incredibly, complicated as soon as the different economy scales started introducing. I mean, we were talking about the writer strike, and we were talking about, how alternative programming, soar as entertainment that was luring in the same demos that were just as profitable, but they, the budgets were not as ambitious when it came to making this alternative programming. So I'm talking about either docu-follows, reality shows, documentaries and all that. So they were getting more for their buck because they were investing less in the content. And as it started growing, it became a blend of like, how much can you offer to whatever viewer you get? and then the arrival of streaming, right? Which absolutely
Right.
altered everything else, right? Because now streaming was spending as much as they possibly could to just acquire a subscriber. It had nothing to do with advertisers. There was no song.
It's a strange thing to like realize there's no ratings, but there are downloads, and it's a strange construct for thinking about the way they do their numbers. And do you feel what has been? Well, there's a couple of questions I have for you. So first of all, your experience with streaming versus network television, are you equally satisfied? Is it equally as exciting, or it's not because it's like a bigger ocean?
Yeah, no, it's. I'm so glad you asked that because I wear two hats, right? As an entrepreneur and a producer, and then as a performer and just an actor, And in many ways, as a producer and for my company is an incredible opportunity to say I can create an idea and I can have enough gates that I can knock on to walk in and hopefully find a home for the project. As an actor, and as an actor, it becomes tricky because there is tons of stuff being made, but not technically like what you would probably need or want to do to be the stepping stone to your next job, right? Like you can't just like sign on to any TV shows, even though there's like 200 TV shows casting. You kind of, so it's like it becomes this conversation of, those critically acclaimed or high concept or, great writer, great director shows become, like the pick of the litter type of situation, so it's a give and take with that. But I will say, all in all, there is a new generation of performers, actors, writers, and directors that are finding their voice in all these mediums. So I think in a different way, it's just evolution and it's part of innovation. I remember the introduction of cable. When you think about network, and when cable got introduced, first of all, cable was a place that most network actors wouldn't even go, right? Because they're like, yeah, they don't have the same budgets, they don't have the right caliber of content. And then
and movie actors going to TV was a big thing. Now you see
exactly
Matthew McConaughey on True Detective.
Yeah, and then network actors wouldn't go to cable, and then cable started producing some innovative stuff because they had nothing to lose, and therefore cable became a big threat for the network business because now advertisers were like, "Whoa, that's interesting. They're critically acclaimed down here." So it's like the evolution always changes, and now they both got a hit on them because
and people used to not want to go to the Valley from Beverly Hills, but lo and behold, that happens too. It's evolution. So, because remember, 818 used to be like you're not going to be an 818.
I got made fun of for living in the 818, for years.
You were an 818.
They're like, oh, you can get a lot of land over there.
You wanted to be a 213.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions because I just asked my assistant for a pen because you made me think of so many different things. So hold on, being attached to because now it's such an interesting conversation because and I wasn't even intending to talk to you about this, but this is something I haven't talked about, and I think it's interesting in this industry, is that it's about like so now there's more distribution, and it's like choosing whether do you want to be distributed in Walmart? Do you want to be distributed in Walmart and do volume and get to more people? Or do you want to be distributed at Hulu and be more niche or, Showtime or HBO Max and be, there's all that discussion. But I'm finding that I don't even think the average consumer is really even understanding what we say when we mean distribution. So in brands, like what's happened in the pandemic is that with brands, any brand, t-shirts, soda, whatever you're doing, there's a direct to consumer model now. That's why so much retail has changed. So people are just going direct and selling their sneakers directly to the consumer online. Right. There's no middle person. So now we're getting closer to that with entertainment. And now we're talking about places where I used to live, like Bravo. And with Bravo, let's say that I'm on a Bravo show. Let's say I'm on a Bravo show. Coca-Cola wants to work with me, or some luggage company wants to work with me. They have to call Coke. They have to call Bravo, ask Bravo, pay Bravo to ask if I'll hold something, and that happens. We want to launch a show 6 months from Sunday. I got to do a traditional week of media, go through the dog and pony show. It's slow. It's not what it is now. I can right now go on YouTube today or Instagram. I can entertain in any way I want. I could sell anything I want. I could talk about anything I want. I could be funny and wacky and do my own 3-minute show. And I don't need a middle person. Right. So that's why like places like that are becoming more interesting because kids aren't watching a 45-minute show on cable or even streamers.
100.
They're watching their phones. So I'm really fascinated and interested in the direct to consumer model because I used to say to Andy Cohen, get the cameras because I have things, so I have the camera right here. It's my phone. I could shoot it right now, put it up. There's my television show. And I love that. I finally equated it to products and I really get it now. This is the direct to consumer model. Boom.
Right.
Throw it up.
And honestly, when you start talking about storefronts, right, which is metaphorically is the same that we're experiencing in content. Storefronts, aka Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, Hulu, all of these streaming platforms that are out there competing for the same consumer.
Yes.
And when they don't find what their marquee product is, what is their hero product?
Bring them in. Flagship store.
Right, like you're on HBO, like you go Game of Thrones. You subscribe to HBO to watch Game of Thrones.
Yes,
and
they get you in the door.
And back in the day when Netflix had House of Cards, you're like, whoa, I'll watch House of Cards, right? Like it was the beginning.
And that was the window display. So then you look down that scroll to that line to the right, and if you watch this, you also watch this. It's amazing. Yeah. So we're saying,
if you buy this dress, you also need the shoes, right? Like it's so I think to your point. Which is a very, very interesting, bringing it up this way. The direct-to-consumer has become so much more in demand that all of these companies have had to create a corporate merger to basically correlate the same audience because unfortunately they're, if you're asking our fans and our supporters and the audiences to tune in to multiple tabs to find their shows, in a world when they can just, like you said, they can go to Instagram and watch 5, 10, 20 different channels, aka individuals putting out content, and then have their fix of entertainment and go back to their day. Now we have to as entertainers, we have to compete with that medium. That doesn't, like as an actor, I'm not necessarily great at making social media content, right? Like I'm not out here like performing on Instagram, right? Like it becomes
and you feel like you're missing out because you used to be on either channel 2, 4, 7, 5, and then later 9, 11, 13. But like there were 3 channels. So you were doing that one thing, competing with that one group, and you understood the beast. Now you're over here and you start to do really well on Instagram, but you don't know how to do TikTok. And then you're over, and then you're missing out because you're over on YouTube. Then you got to be on Netflix. Like it's all different, but that's all these different pockets of audiences. And you could be organizing buttons and be famous on TikTok, and nobody knows who you are on Instagram. Literally.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it kind of leads me into my next mental topic, which I've had this many conversations now. Now everyone's like, audiences, we got to get to the audiences. And it was all about demos. Now it's about communities. Now it's about catering to communities. You're
going more micro because I'm saying it's find your medium. Like let's say Mr. Beast is making $50 million a year on YouTube. Right. So like he found his medium and he's okay to be just there. So you're talking about even more micro than your medium. Now you're on YouTube, but who are you on what lane and what world?
So to your point, Bethenny, micro is the new mainstream.
Exactly. And that's TikTok. Right? There are worlds on TikTok. I walked into the beauty room and landed in there, and it has been extraordinary for me because I just happened to walk into the right room. I could have walked into the mac and cheese room. I walked into the beauty room. Right.
And the point is you understood your strength in those categories. And therefore you could really, really effortlessly perform, create, develop, and explore, what that destination has for you. As a production company CEO and founder, I have multiple pillars in my company and multiple departments that work as its own individual companies for the same vision of saying, we no longer need to fit most. Like we need to just cater to the stories and the people that share the same interests as we do, because like you said, life is too short. like you can't be pitching the same show to 30 different networks. So you gotta say, I made this for Netflix, I made this for CBS.
And if you try to please it's the same thing as marketing products. If you try to please everybody, you end up pleasing nobody. What you can do when you're in one lane is dip into something else to see if they're going to take that. Now you've got 2 things they're interested in. So for me, it was beauty. And then I realized unexpectedly they're interested in luggage, reviewing luggage, like random. So,
but it leads into lifestyle, right? Like,
yes.
So for me, it's been about I love drama. I love comedy, right? I started out that way. I love comedy. I did it for almost 10 years. And then I switched to drama, and now I've done that for almost 13 years. And so successfully been able to enjoy both. And I think my success is the fact that my success comes from the fact that I've been able to enjoy both. Because if you show up to work, you're going to keep the light on, right? But the most important thing is, if you continue to enjoy that opportunity on that road, then you're going to most likely continue to travel it, and you'll find work and you'll find opportunities. Right. So it's kind of like that's the circuit, you know?
So these are your anchors. The NCIS has been an anchor, and that 70s show brand has been an anchor. What has been your most economically successful venture as an entity, like the 70s show experience or the NCIS or your production company? Yeah. What has been the best business venture?
It's interesting. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I would say both that 70s show and NCIS have been both incredibly fruitful for me. I think that going back, I took a long break from television after I finished 70s show. And I was only able to do that because, back then, the fees for television and the money and budgets for television were a lot greater than they are now.
Okay.
They've cut, they're like, can you do it for this much?
Oh, interesting.
Actors have to take pay cuts and start again. Some of their quotes are not being honored, right? So I had to kind of start myself from scratch on both shows and able to put myself through this place. So I would say that network TV is still iconically the place where it could be the most lucrative when it comes to your business.
Because you hit it right both times.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. And then in between, I had some great runs, right? Like I did a lot of different stuff and showed up in different places. And, I did Minority Report for one season on Fox. And then I did Awake on NBC for another season. And then I did From Dusk Till Dawn with Robert Rodriguez. And that was like a great series for 3 years. And that was also an interesting medium where Robert directed and all that. So I was able to really dance with all these different genres. And then, and I was doing some films and independent films that really were allowing to show the industry that I could do more than what they've ever, assumed from the beginning. So a lot of chapters I've had to really reinvent myself for the opportunity that was coming next. And now I stand at a place where I'm blessed that my fans and my supporters have followed me at every job, because that's also very important for not only Market City, but for a studio to be like, oh, you can bet on this horse if you're going to put him on a show, and with NCIS, there was a lot of crazy changes. And I was able to really create a great partnership with the writers and the showrunners and most importantly, my cast. To create a different dynamic for a show that's been on for 20 years, So now the show is still number one. It's still
amazing
drama.
It's amazing. And you never had to be typecast or do a rinse that you were the 70s show kid. You sort of made good choices to like be able to be both, which many people are still stuck in what they were and people don't see them differently. So I feel like, I don't want to say you were lucky, because I don't think you were. I think it was proactive. It sounds like you're very intentional. But I think that's definitely a feat where you can really enjoy the campiness of that 70s show, because it doesn't define you and it's not all that anyone's ever seen you as, which I think is really nice. Thank
you. No, thank you. I actually, to your point, and we're going to really kind of break it down. I got to say, I knew, because I ripped the page from a lot of my colleagues and a lot of friends who played similar characters like mine in the 80s and the 90s. And I realized that if I was going to have a shot at actually making this a career after that 70s show, I knew that I had to start the reinvention 2 to 3 years before I ended that 70s show. So every summer I would do a movie. Every summer I would do something else. I would show up.
That was chess. You were playing chess.
Yeah, because I knew that it wasn't about, everything is for the fans, don't get me wrong. But in that moment, it was about the industry understanding that there was life in the 70s show, and I needed to tell them that, right? You know what I'm talking about?
I did the same thing on Housewives, and Housewives is a harder rinse to do. You need like a bucket of alcohol to rinse off the Housewives. But I was starting that rinse real soon, second season.
So what was what was when did you see the writing on the wall that you're like, I gotta really jump off and understand the platform that I'm at and what it gives me and signal and frequency and how I can use that and morph it into the next chapter of my life? When was that moment?
Well, I was obviously much older than you. I was in my late 30s and I was broke. So I, didn't, when I started, I didn't have a lot of options, but I've never made a big brand plan in my life, but I'm always playing chess. It's the way my mind works. Like that piece moves to that piece. And that's, and you're aware of the pieces, but you're also aware of the board. So when I was on Housewives, very quickly, like the end of first season, second season, I was thinking to myself, like almost secreting it, I'm going to get a spinoff. I don't know why I thought it, just like I was thinking about a spinoff already and pushing that. And then also you're in a bucket with a bunch of different people and they're all women and we're getting similar but different opportunities. And when I became Breakout and I was getting quote unquote better opportunities, down to something dumb from a showroom wanting me to come in for free clothes to hosting the Today Show, I was keeping my stuff close to the vest. I was in my own lane. I was trying not to overshare what I was doing because I saw that being a problem. I saw women were getting jealous. And when I got to the Today Show to host it, they said, oh, this cast member of yours said, why not me? I'm better than her. I'd be better. Like I saw it was cutthroat. And so I wrote this in my book. I was in my own lane. And by the way, it wasn't always popular. I was gatekeeping certain things. I wasn't telling everybody everything I was doing and where I was going. Because guess what? I was running my own game. I'm not your family. You're not your mother.
That's the secret sauce, by the way, Beth.
Okay, I was running my own game. Yeah, I was running my own game early, and it's not show friends, it's show business. And I never have ever screwed anybody over, but I was running my own game. It was my rodeo, and I was going to the end zone. So, and the decisions always change. And I wasn't showing up like all housewives want to show up everywhere together and 5 women together. I wasn't showing up on these red carpet events of 4 other women. If I had to go, I would go. But even when I came back to the Housewives for all that money the second time around, I definitely was separating. I wasn't doing press together. I didn't want to be clumped in. Sorry, not sorry. Just what I didn't want to do.
No, and that's the secret sauce. I mean, look, if there's one thing that people could walk away with in for this specific section of our conversation is don't tell anyone anything you're dreaming about.
I don't connect dots. It's my number one rule. I do not connect dots about anything.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I don't say where I had lunch.
Somebody's done. Like somebody hasn't figured it out, and then you say something that it finally clicks for them, and then that dream it has now been polluted because somebody will do whatever they take to get it from you.
Yep.
And I was
even something stupid like I had lunch there today. You give some extra piece of information to somebody you don't know. Oh, or I know Jen and she knows your dad, and then some weird thing comes out about someone's cheating about like I don't play games. Like I tell my best friends, everything, but that's it. Like the rest is like, I don't tell anybody anything. I am private to a fault. I don't care. That's just, yeah. So,
and you know what, Sam, you find that you can build real industry relationships and friendships when people don't know what you're up to. And
when they know you'll never tell anybody anything, they tell you. I'm a vault. That's a big one too.
Yeah. Exactly. That's big. The royalty and respect in this thing is really, really rare. And I had to start years before I finished 70 shows. So every year I would do a different type of independent movie that only the industry would see. I would go to Cannes Film Festival with a movie. I would go to Sundance Film Festival with a movie, and the industry were seeing me in different characters.
Exactly, I get it. It wasn't about the money; it was about the street cred. I got the same thing with my brand, Skinnygirl Deal. Forbes cover was like, boom. Now we have street cred. Now we are separated. We could do our own thing. We're not clumped in, yeah. But you went back in because went on Netflix, and I went back in because I went back in. The money was too good. And that, it required another navigation of not just rinsing, but being from a different perspective. It's wild. You have to think about those things. Sometimes going backwards is going forward. Sometimes you have a financial reason. It's very, very interesting. And you've also, you're obviously not a kid, and now you're an activist and you're charitable and you really are a voice in the Latino community. So you have a lot of personal responsibility that you take on, that you put on yourself to message things like this for your daughter about the fact that you came to this country, did not speak English. Is that true?
Yeah, I didn't know how to say hi. It was bad. It was pretty bad. I didn't really realize one, the responsibility, but two, the opportunity to really expand on it. When I was doing 70 show, in fact, I think most people didn't even know I was Latino. They thought I was Indian or some other ethnicity, you know. So in many ways, I feel like it played to my advantage in where I was able to create a character that was so ambiguous that kind of welcome most, you know, and people were just seeing how funny the character was and the shenanigans that he would get into. And that became almost universal and colorless, and that really helped. So then when I started hearing young people say, hey, you know, not until I saw you in television, I saw myself, which it started like in the early 2000s. I was like, oh, wait, what's going on? You know?
You didn't know you were going to be the representation of anything. You just a kid.
No, I was just trying to keep the light on. Okay. Like just got to the country 5 years ago, 70 show. So,
which is crazy, by the way. How you came to this country to be like, explain that. How old were you?
So I was I was about to turn 14. So I was 13 years old. And I came to the United States in 1993. I was born in Miami because my mother and my father had married in Miami. And then back in the early 80s, I was born in 1980. So that around that time, the dollar and el Bolivar, which I'm from Venezuela, were almost 1-1 because of, you know, oil and all of that stuff happening in Latin America, specifically with Venezuela. So my parents kind of moved back to Venezuela, and we started working in the agriculture industry. So my mom and my dad met in Miami, had me in Maryland, my sister, and then we decided to move back to Venezuela. So we were in Venezuela for about 10 years. And then there was a military coup in the government, and that didn't succeed with a young general by the name of Hugo Chavez. And that didn't succeed. So so my dad saw the writing on the wall on that one, and he was just like, we probably need to get back because this is not a good signal, you know, and he was very smart. He sold most of the stuff we had in Venezuela, minus our little hut, a little house in the little town that we lived in. And then we came back to the United States, and I came back to Miami, and none of us knew how to speak English. You know, my dad knew how to speak English a little bit, but my mom still doesn't speak English because she was like dedicated to raising children, you know. And then we came to Los Angeles, and the way it all happened was I was always singing, dancing, and acting since I was 6 years old in Venezuela because we lived in such a small little town. There was nothing to do. There was one movie theater, and they played RoboCop all year round, you know? So literally, like, that was like my own inspiration. But when I came to Los Angeles, I decided, because I didn't know how to speak English, I decided that I would go back to theater and singing and dancing because it was going to force me to read. It was going to force me to speak out loud and these little fake conversations on stage that I didn't have the courage of having outside of the stage. So then the more I did theater, the more I fell in love with it. And then more I kept hearing, hey, you should give it a try. You're pretty good. Really? You're pretty funny. You're pretty silly. And I was like, oh, okay. And I had a crazy accent. So it was a perfect storm of things. I was showcased a couple of other acting classes, and I got representation. This teacher, Celeste Boyd, you know, who decided to teach me for free because I couldn't afford classes. She basically said, I think you're ready to audition for commercials and stuff. And she introduced me to an agent. He said, we're not going to represent you. We're going to send you out and see what feedback we get.
Hip pocket, they call it, right? Hip pocket.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then basically they would send me out. They will get this amazing feedback. He's hilarious, such an interesting take for the stuff that we give him.
Wow.
You know, so ultimately, the more I auditioned, the best feedback I got. And then they kept saying, you know, but he has an accent. Can he lose his accent? Because people don't have accents on television.
Wow.
They wanted me to lose my accent. They wanted me to change my name to something that sounded more Latino than Wilmer Valderrama, because they thought that doesn't sound Latino because there typically has to be Lopez. You know, so it was a whole thing, but I finally did it, and then they kept sending me out. And then one day I auditioned for this pilot called Teenage Wasteland. I auditioned 4 times, and I got the contract, and you'll like this part. I got the contract, and I'm in this last audition with my dad. We don't have the part yet, but they make you sign contracts in case. And the contract says that I was going to make $15,000 for the pilot, the first episode. And
that's not bad for back then.
No. I mean, talking, that was to 1998.
Yeah, I made $7,250 the whole first season of Housewives.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, for alternative, for reality, that was like good money. You know what I mean?
For the whole season.
Oh, the whole season.
For the whole season.
Wow.
But I wrote down, you can't take a piece of my business, which became the Bethenny clause, which is like a famous thing for reality people. So it ended up, because I was being smart. I was like you. I mean, I spoke English, but I didn't know a damn thing. And I was reading this thing and I was just trying to focus. So what happened? So you're looking at the contract. It says
no, it's crazy. I love that you offer that, because then he switched from reality. Like reality became a thing, you know?
Yes.
But yeah, so the $15,000 for the first episode, and then $10,000 per episode if you went to school. Now, I was 17, about to turn 18 years old. Okay. We have just gone to America maybe 4 years prior to that. And my first job was to just learn how to speak English. I was a busboy. I was a busboy at a restaurant called Cafe Bijou in Studio City in Sino area, Sherman area. And my uncle was to work there, and then he got me a little job there as like, the runner of dishes and stuff. And I was auditioning for commercials here and there, but not getting much, Right. So finally, after a couple little gigs that got me the money to pay for the union and became a Screen Actors Guild member, I was able to audition for the pilot. So fast tracking to the pilot audition. I told my dad, imagine if I get this part. My dad's like, mijo, if you get it, very good. If you don't get it, very good. And I was like, okay, very good. And I went in and auditioned my ass off, and I went home. And this is a really tough time for my family. We were late in the rank for a couple of months, and my dad was like working overtime, trying to like not even break even. And we were just in a situation. We were eating dinner every other night. And by the way, we weren't sad about it. It was like, it was just what it took. It's like the immigrant way. You come here and, we eat one day, we eat the next day or not. It doesn't mean until you get it together, because we always know that you put in enough hours, you will get it together. So for us, it was mathematical. It was nothing emotional. It wasn't boohoo. We Latinos don't complain about, money.
It's a work ethic. It's that ethic.
Yeah, it's just like, we got to make money. That's all it is, So we were doing pretty not good. And I told my dad, imagine if I get it. Then we got home and I get a phone call from my agent, who now became my agent, and says, hey, they want you to come back tomorrow. And I said, okay. Yeah, they want you to come back tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after.
I have to. I've never had. I'm gonna cry.
And I was like, what? And my mom, and the days where you could pick up the phone and listen to the other line, like everybody listen to the lines, and everyone starts screaming because they understood that my face meant that I got it. And we were just like, even if the show doesn't go $15,000, we can pay the rent. We don't have to go to 99-cent stores. We can go to Ralph's. Like, it was this conversation where like, oh my God, like,
oh my God, I have the chills.
Fire, And that was one of the most iconic moments in my life, when I remember looking outside the window and like cue it like a movie. Saw an American flag from the neighbor.
Oh my God, I have the chills right now.
And I literally said to myself, that's what this is. That's what this country is. This is what it was built for. So dreams had a shot at being possible. So when that happened, I wasn't thinking magazines, interviews, fame. I was thinking like, oh my God, they're going to pay me for acting. This is bananas. And then I went, and then I shot the show. Before I even shot the show, I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, anything and everything that comes out of my mouth will be the most memorable, the funniest. And I said, I am going to relentlessly be the best at this character. And,
my God, you make
me crying. I just went in there, and my first line was ridiculous on the 70s show. And I remember the moment when they say action, and my first line was about to happen. And I say, and by the way, I rarely do the voice, but I'm going to do it here for you. But okay. I literally said, I may not say this right because I am new to English, but she has tremendous breasts. Yes. And the audience exploded. My co-stars like almost broke character. And like, it was this moment where the magical moment of hearing the audience, I just made them laugh. It seems like a check. It feel like if I keep in this trajectory. I'm not getting fired. And then I decided I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best at what I do. And I became a student of every role on the set. You know, every department head, every department from directors, right? And I taught myself how to make a production. I taught myself how to creatively develop something, because the producers, Marcy, Carsey, and Tom Warner, were so beautiful to open the door to teach me stuff. And I took it from there. But, you know, that year, I was able to pay off our debt. And then I took my mom to Ralph's. And then, you know, and then my dad was letting me borrow the family car, which was a Ford Taurus station wagon with the hood that was a different color of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used to put the cassette adapter for the CD-ROM.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I like listen to music on the way to work. And then I finally was like, my dad's like, you should buy yourself a car. And I went and bought a 99 Mercury Cougar. It was like brand new relaunch of the model. And I was like, very cool, cloth seats and fake wood detail. And I was like, this thing is, and people used to say, is this a Jaguar? And I used to say, yes, it is. Because it has, you know, the cougar emblem.
Yeah, it's a cougar.
Yeah.
It's a cougar. Wait, yeah. I've never needed, I feel like, Ellen, I've never needed tissues on the set here because it's a set, it's my couch. But I'm just saying, like, you got me, like, the way you, first of all, the story, but the way you told the story. And I was sitting here like, and, you know, I'm thankful to you for, you know, giving me that gift to like, you just took me there where I was like in your house and like feeling that sort of pride and desperation at the same time, but like not desperate because you just were still happy. I don't know. There was something about the way you told that story that you brought me to tears. I had the chills because I can't. And it's so amazing how you literally remember it from a granular, porous perspective.
I can't forget it, you know, and so much about this first couple of years of my career. You know, I used to, I described it the other day like this to a friend. It was like, I never give my back to the room. Even when I exit the room, I was bowing, thank you, you know, and I would just exit the door. I was so grateful somebody had believed that I could do it.
Wow.
Because if you were to really, really visualize the little town that I grew up in, and, you know, watching I Love Lucy and watching Chips and watching, you know, Charlie's Angels and like seeing that and growing in this household and thinking to myself, one day I'm going to do that. And, you know, it's so interesting. When we first came to America, my dad took us to Hollywood Boulevard. And so, I don't remember because we couldn't see inside, but somebody was getting their star on the Walk of Fame. And I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, one day I'm going to have a star on the Walk of Fame. And, you know, it still hasn't happened, but I know it's possible. And, you know, and even the bigger promise that even I forgot to mention at the beginning, you know, maybe about 4 to 5 months before that audition, my dad's car gets stolen. And it gets stolen from the front of the house. And if you know, in Los Angeles, the car is the lifeline to all of it. Like my dad needed that car because he was going from mechanic shop to mechanic shop, bringing parts, and they would pay him to transport parts. And he had a for sale sign on the window, and he would drive it with a for sale sign on the window while he was hustling with the car until the car sold for a little bit more than he bought it for. Then he bought another car, put another for sale sign, and then he, you know, sell it over until the car got a little nicer, and then he make a little bit more cash while still doing the errands. And then that car gets stolen.
Wow. And
that was the first time I saw my dad, you know, with an energy of desperation, and hearing his voice change, unlike I've ever heard it in my whole life. In that moment, at like almost midnight, when he heard the car take off and he looked at the window and he was just gone. I looked at my dad and I said, Dad, don't worry, because I'm going to be this, and this before 70 show. I was like, I'm going to be this successful actor, and I'm going to make all this money, and I'm going to have restaurants, and I'm going to have this, and we're never going to need this. I'm going to buy us a house and all that. So don't worry about this. And my dad looked at me, and I was 13. I was about 13. Sorry. I was about 15 years old or something like that. And I said to my dad, No, it was closer to, yeah, I think it was closer to, I was probably about 15 or so. It wasn't months. It was I was 15 years old, and I said to my dad, Papa, don't worry, blah, 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 blah. And you're never going to need to work again. And, I'm going to take it. My dad looked to me, and my mom she was still pacing around. He goes, okay, mijo, that's very good.
Oh,
And I felt like he had given me permission to go ahead and do it.
That's unbelievable. And they set you up to do it with the work ethic, and that you were a team and getting on the phone, and it was like a win for everyone. It's outrageous. Wow. So was that your rose of your whole career?
Yeah, that was the liftoff. That was the liftoff. I think the show wasn't ever a clear hit until probably the end of season 2, beginning of season 3. We were like the stepchilds of television. Like, nobody wanted to acknowledge that we were good. Nobody.
Like Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, like it was like we weren't even critically acclaimed. They were like, "What is this?"
Right.
But the audiences discovered us, and they switched our time slot multiple times. We started between The Simpsons and The X-Files on Sunday nights. And that was like the night of television.
Right.
And they switched us around. And then finally, the show found an audience. And then, it's so funny. Nobody could recognize me in real life, right? Like, I would be standing next to Ashton, and people would be like, "Hey, say hi to Fez for me," and I'd be like, "Hi." And people wouldn't recognize it because my character spoke and carried himself so different.
Right.
So they just thought that thing was a real thing. Yeah, that was alive,
Right.
But that was the beginning of that. And I give a lot of thanks and and I'm very grateful to my agents. Eventually, when I went through, I changed to my agency. I ended up at UTA, and I had Shani Rosenzweig, and she put together a beautiful team with Tracy Jacobs and Nancy Gates and Jeff Sonelson, and at the time Jason Shapiro, and a few more that I'm for sure forgetting. And I'm sorry, because this was not a credit call, but it was a group of individuals that saw me beyond Fez. And
right.
So every summer they would fight to get me in the room, and nobody wanted to me in the room.
Yeah, I bet you were totally typecast. Yeah. Wow. What an amazing story. And now you're developing Zorro with you starring and producing, not directing, or both?
Producing. Yeah. So I'm actually producing it, and I'll be starting at Zorro for Walt Disney, which is, imagine, like a dream of a lifetime, right? Like, the only hero the Latino community really has, that iconically a character that showed us as like romantic and smart and clever and just
and funny.
And
so funny is great for you, because it's like you get to be legitimate, and it is a hero, and it's a respected brand, but funny and like a little wacky. Like, you could have your own take on that, is the first thing I was thinking. Like, it's amazing. What a great, I would never have thought of that, but like, what a great fit. How exciting.
It's really exciting. And I think, to your point, it is a role that finally could really tap into all my weapons.
Yes. Marries everything at the same time. It's legit. Yeah. It's funny and stupid. Yeah. It's wacky. It's like, it's respect. It's like a kid hero. It's Latino. Yeah. It kind of checks all the boxes.
Yeah, no. And honestly, I went and looked for the titles. I think as the more that my production company, and I'm really grateful to God in the industry and my fans, but the production company, has evolved into something else. It's not a pod deal anymore. It's like, it's a multi-department, multi-layered.
What's it called?
It's called WB Entertainment.
Okay.
I'm thinking about changing the name at some point, because I'm kind of becoming allergic to my name in the title. But I think at the time it made sense, because that was what they wanted to buy. It was product from me, But I think as it's
Mijo Productions.
Mijo Productions. Yeah, it's okay, Mijo Productions. That's very funny. That's actually Mijo Productions.
Yeah. But no one will ever forget it. It's kind of cute. I like it. It just
you know what? I'm seriously considering it. I'm not even joking.
No, I believe you. I like it. It's just like, yeah, I like it, because it also has a double entendre of like me Hollywood. Like, there's like layers. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Complete sense. Oh my God, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
but yeah, so the production company started really, and I've been trying to infuse the sense of let's dream bigger in our company. And now we have had the opportunity to develop tons of different things for different studios. And And now I have a first look at the US CBS Studios, which has been a great home. I have great partners at Netflix, I have great partners at Walt Disney.
Mm-hmm.
It really empowered me to uplift and expand on the idea that our stories, no matter what color we're can actually transcend culture and can invite most while still being authentic and rooted into who we really are and what we've been in America. Without, any political agenda, mostly going back to the fundamentals of entertainment. We just want to entertain people. We want people to walk away feeling awesome, and we want them to feel proud of who they are, no matter what color you are. And then the fact that I'm able to, get in front of the camera and some of this has been also a joy, because I can really shape tonally who we are culturally in America. And, there's a lot of rebuilding that we have to do of our image. A lot of stuff has been deleted from the books of history. I mean, you also see in the banning of a lot of books. And so a lot of this conversation really fires me up to do content that's going to live forever, that you can't just take off the shelf. And that's, I think that's the next phase of our culture, to be able to reintroduce us as who we really are, and told by us. And so we're producing all kinds of different things. We have an alternative department, where we do alternative programming in the sense of, docu-follows, documentaries and game shows and stuff. And then we have a scripted department where we do drama and comedy together. We also dabble in animation. And then we also have a podcast department. I became partners with iHeart on a network. So we now own a network called My Cultura Podcast Network, which, it's available everywhere that you get your podcast. And in that, we're curating some great voices and really kind of inviting the Latino community to discover and adapt to podcasting, as is they're little late adapters to podcasting.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're excited to kind of pioneer in that, but we're also making podcasting that not only is for them, but it's for everyone. So we're really hoping that we can combine, and it's been phenomenal already. So we have developed production and distribution through iHeart. And we have a pipeline of amazing content that we're going to do there. And so on. And then I have a management company called Allied Management, which represents Latin American writer, producers, and directors from Central and South America. And we bridge the gap. We need more hands on deck, because there's a lot of abundance of Latino stories that are being developed, but we're not enough people to run it, not enough people to direct it. So we built a very premium a management company to really curate these voices and really introduce them to Hollywood and expand on that. And it's been a joy. I mean, it's been a joy to see this slate of projects. And that's besides, like you mentioned, the activism, which has been also another great joy in my life, to partner up with some great organizations that do really great stuff, that are all just in line with everything we're producing.
It's amazing. And the two things that really jump off the page for me is really the work, the work ethic, like that, the way you've had good connect. This is the same with me. I mean, you're probably, to other people, have a reputation of being kinder and gentler. Like, I have a tough reputation, but I am tough but fair. Like, everybody knows that it's not always pleasant to do a deal with me, but that I'm always fair. Like, that's just who I'm known as. And I have good relationships with the first book I ever did, with, even with Bravo, with everyone. And I just have noticed that, and people have to really listen and understand that the relationship, the minute you start, the clock is running. Like, it's the same relationships then as they are now. You see 100%. The same people up here, same people on the way down. Like, it's just all these relationships that connect like a web. And how, so many times will someone come to me and say, well, should we work with that person? And I'll have had an unpleasant experience with them. I'll be like, absolutely not. And
yeah,
I think
it's
about
too
how
short. Life is too short for that kind of stuff. And you
have to just,
enough,
Yup. You got to be good the whole way through. Like, do it well or don't do it at all. So I just noticed that you have really, A, made really good choices, B, just have an incredible work ethic, but have nurtured all these relationships and are all coming together into one because you're doing so many different things in the same pot now. And then that you're like, you've curated, because we're getting older. You're younger than I am, but we're older.
Yeah.
And you curate the career you want. And it sounds ridiculous, but you saying that you're playing Zorro, which is a convergence of all these things, is funny. Like David Arquette, who's made a lot of money on different businesses. He's not just the Scream guy.
Yeah.
And he plays like, he's like a little chill and like that.
Yeah.
So you think he's like, not, really like this business guy. And he owns the rights to Bozo. Like you own the rights to Zorro. Like it's a convergence of him being funny and being wacky, and he's got this rights to this real entity of Bozo the Clown. Right. And I'm thinking of you as Zorro. So I'm seeing these people. You're all like auditioning for all this time for like when you get in your 40s and 50s, and like now it's not the dress rehearsal.
It is.
Now
it
it's
is
all real.
Yes, 100%. And
you get to have the life you want because of all these things you've done. And this, and I hate to sound like a Karen, but much of the younger generation wants it now, and they want to know right now. And it's like, stir the pot, like just like let the butter melt. It's gonna all come. You just got to handle it right and like nurture it, and it comes together now. So that's what I'm getting from you, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difference between making a full dinner versus a sandwich, right? Like,
thank you.
Sandwich is a snack.
Fast food. You're not satisfied. It's just you're eating to eat. And you've got like a full. Yeah, I agree. So you're amazing. Really good. I
appreciate that so much, and it means a lot. And honestly, I was very excited to talk to you for all the very same reasons. I really do respect, the choices, the foresight to all of these different aspects to your life and to your career, because it really speaks to the sanity that you have to keep, no matter how tough or high level the frequency is in which you have to perform, to have a grounding and be able to get past that storm, and then say, I choose sunny days now because. The storm gave me the ability to say, I can see it coming, I can avoid it, So it was important to go through all those dry seasons and low seasons.
Yes, it's a texture and it's the quilt.
It's the texture, exactly. It's a texture that kind of paves the road. And now you're capable to either go on the freeway or off-road, and you.
It's amazing. Yes, right? Yeah. Well, the thing about the show, it's been very successful, which I'm very proud of. But like the one thing I wasn't thinking about when doing it, because a lot of things I do is it's like, it's going to be successful. I had this idea and it's going to be great. And we're going to talk about this. And what I love the most about it is just like, I'm not social. I never leave my house unless I'm like, I have to. I leave my house for my daughter's lacrosse, or I'm being paid to be over here. And I'm just very, very antisocial. And it's surprising, but I'm always in pajamas. So
you definitely fool me. You're incredibly
beyond
right now.
Beyond. I'm very much an introverted, like from a leave the house. It's weird. And everyone's shocked by that. But the one thing the show has given me is like, to meet, like I spend an hour with you. I don't spend an hour with my own friends half the time. Like I feel like I know you. So now I know you.
So real, yeah.
So now I know you. So like now that's exciting. I've met so many people. Like now I know you, and I really like know about your life, stories that probably some of your friends don't even know. So I'm excited to meet you and to have known you, and like all these interesting people that I would never have known anything about. So I'm so grateful, and thank you so much for coming to like talk to me. And now I know you. We know each other.
No, I mean, it's same. That this is also exciting because the moment we see each other in person, it's not a handshake, it's a hug, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So I can't wait for that to happen. Love to your family.
Thank you.
You have one child.
Yes, I have a 2-year-old. She just turned 2 February 15. She's at dance class right now. So that's hilarious every time. She just started school too, and we're teaching her English, Spanish, and Mandarin. She's already pretty good Spanish because my mom, it's all day Spanish with her, so she's pretty bilingual now. But we're trying to equip her with tools that we never had, and also she's living like a pretty similar upbringing like I did. She's eating the same food with my parents, everything. So it's been really great. She dances first and talks later, so that's ultimately
that's amazing. And you married someone in the industry, or I call it a civilian?
Yes.
You married a civilian?
Yeah, basically someone whose expectations of life are a lot more realistic than mine ever were, And so she's a very special human being. Amanda makes it look very easy. She gets along better with the dolphin than with human beings.
Uh-huh.
She loves nature. She's a dive master. She's a scuba diver and
Wow.
search and rescue. She's a badass, and she really has taught me to take deep breaths and to look up and enjoy the green trees, because when we do this and we're just like, we're going, we got this, we got to do that, we're going to do this. Sometimes you kind of stray away of the reason why you work so hard and why you do this so much.
That's why that story was really good for me today. That story was like, you're a good storyteller. Like you told, I was there in the living room on the phone. Well, it's so nice to know you, and I can't wait to meet you in person. And I appreciate you taking the time. I really do. So good luck and congratulations, and keep in touch and let me know. I can't wait to follow you now. The second I get off, follow you on my social media to hear what you're up to.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for you too. I again, so blessed to be able to have this conversation. It actually felt good to get a lot of that stuff out of, I don't really talk about those stuff very often. But it is nice to reconnect with that. So I'm so glad that you connected with my story, because it's so raw in my brain still. Those moments are just so incredibly unforgettable, and I'm excited when I get to relive it and say it out loud to somebody who can relate to it too. So thank you for having me on your show, and continue all the success. And I'm always around if you need a cup of sugar.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Oh my God, do I love Wilmer Valderrama. He had me crying. This show gives me so many gifts. I end up becoming their friends and bonding with them and like knowing them, and we're crying and this meaningful, beautiful story. What a great experience. I adore Wilmer. That was incredible. I am so lucky. I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Rate, review, and subscribe. I'm literally on my phone to find Wilmer and follow him right now. So I can't believe I didn't know him. This is exciting. Wow, amazing. Thank you so much.